Hello, everybody. Welcome, all you Fennsomniacs, to another long-anticipated edition of Fennsomnia. This is your non-PC, beer-drinking, thrill-of-the-chase, talking up late at night show. And I am Sean Dodson, otherwise known as Sean New Mexico on the forums, and obviously I am your host to those of you that don't know or haven't watched any of my YouTube shows. So just a couple of admin notes for all of you out there. My son is still awake and he's off in the other room. My daughter is sound asleep, but if my son needs anything, I will get up and kind of go take care of him. And you guys obviously all know what to do. You pretty much just chat amongst yourselves. So just be wary of that. And so, as always, it's the beer drinking show. So tonight I'm just having a standard old Bud Light. So dilly dilly to all of you. Hope you're all doing well. So, I've had a lot of people email me and Facebook message me and a lot of other stuff asking me, where the heck are you, Flip? What's going on? Cheers. So I hope y'all can hear me just fine. I'm in a kind of a new setup here, and YouTube did some funny things with my channel, and maybe some of the other FenTubers know about that, but I just had to do some adjusting and testing on it, so hopefully everything's working just fine. But really just want to kind of address a little bit about my absence. Our family, my wife and I, we sold our old home and we purchased actually two homes. Crazy funny story. The people that put the bid on our home and we accepted had to sell their home in order to buy our home. So my wife came up with a crazy idea. Let's buy their home so they can buy our home, and we'll use that as kind of like an investment rental property. So we're now landlords, apparently. Not something I ever thought I would do, but I guess I am now. But we did buy another house, and we've been doing a lot of here the last week, been doing a little bit of remodeling with it, kind of changing stuff. We laugh about it. We feel like Chip and Joanna Gaines, and we've been tearing down walls and new appliances and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's been chaos at our house here and our other house, which we actually, in the middle of selling our home and getting the accepted offer and doing this whole deal, we actually had a home fire that caused a little bit of damage to our home. It wasn't a lot of damage, but obviously it was significant enough that we had to take care of it. But it unfortunately also burned down a car that I had put a lot of sweat equity and time and money into building this car. And unfortunately, it wasn't covered under my homeowner's insurance, which was absolutely ludicrous and crazy. So that kind of gives you an update what's kind of been going on and why I've been kind of absent the last month, because that's really been the priority. Chase, I still kind of pay attention, watching the forums a little bit. Not so much the YouTube verse so much, but, just kind of keeping up on what's going on. So again, cheers to everybody. And I'll just say hi to a few of you guys here in the chat room. I think it was 23 Monarcha. Might actually been the FRB or the front running bastard that was in here tonight. So just a few people. 23 Monarcha, hello. Steve Wayne, listen good. Anagram, hey Anagram, good to see you. Sometimes yeah, Rob G. Red X, or like Redneck Express, I just call him Red X all the time for short. Alan K, hey Alan, I did get your email and I did watch your video. Brad Kisner, how are you doing, Brad? Yeah, actually, cool story. I got to meet Brad up in Pagosa Springs. So nice to meet you, Brad. Let's see who else. Hooli, how are you? MEH, Michael, good to see you in here. Maverick Searcher, Jimmy Fast. Hello, Jimmy. Dirk, Steve Gahagan, how are you? David Oberon, Brad again. Matt Bear, that's a new name I haven't seen. Sakar, hey, Sakar, how are you? Anon, hola to you. Zozo Rocks. I was so sure, that's a new one I don't think I've seen before. So yeah, good little group in here tonight. Obviously, it's late. Some of you on the East Coast, it's obviously, Saturday for you. And those of you on the West Coast, it's still early enough. So there's I kind of said in my teaser, there's a couple of topics that I really want to discuss, and then we'll kind of open it up to the room. And I asked some people to actually send me some questions too. And some of those questions I got emails and on Facebook Messenger and some other things were really tailored around some of the things I want to talk about. But we can obviously open up, and again, guys, you all are familiar with this. If you have a question that's directly related to me, just put that little apper sign, the flip side, and then I'll hopefully be able to see it over here in my pop-out chat and talk about it. The first thing I really want to talk about is we'll talk about this whole lead dog conversation. I kind of want to hit on the Freedom of Information Act stuff just a little bit, or also known as the FOIA. I want to talk a little bit of an update on some stuff with the 6 questions, and then kind of go into some of the emails I got and some of the stuff that you guys want to talk about. So the first thing I really want to talk about is this whole lead dog thing, and I don't know where this came about. I mean, I don't know where you could go back and try and figure out who really started talking about lead dog stuff, but I don't think I've ever really here recently seen anybody come out right and say, I'm the lead dog, or anybody like that doing that. I don't know, maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I've never really read on the forum someone coming out and saying, hey, it's me, I'm the lead dog, I'm the one that Forrest Fenn is talking about, or gave him. I mean, last year everybody thought that they were the person for the gut feeling, but I haven't really seen anybody come out there and claim that, and it's funny because to me, I look at this and I go, if somebody really believed that they were, or truly felt that they had this thing figured out and really thought that they were so certain or confident in everything, I don't think that they would be really advertising that. I think that person would be smart enough to kind of lay low. And I think Forrest Fenn has kind of hinted that in some ways of saying, the person, I can't remember how he said this. Now I should know this quote, but he said, though the most intuitive are usually the most quiet, or something to that effect. And I think it was like the Esquire article or something back last year where he had said that. And I think that's true. And I did get a couple of emails and some comments about that. And I'm gonna pop these up. I'm not gonna pop them up for you to see, but I'm gonna bring them up for me so I can see them. Give me a second here, guys. See if I can find them. Now this one came from a searcher, an email called Gold Dog, and I think he might have been in the chat earlier or something. But cheers. And this person's comment, and this was just his comment, and then the person asked a question, and this is in relation to the lead search or lead dog. And his comment was, I think there is almost certainly someone who knows more than everyone else, at least as far as Fenn knows. I would agree with that. In my opinion, I think it's enough for Fenn to think they will find it this year. It's just based on his actions. He said he wanted to experience the chase and not wait until he is dead. I don't know if he actually said that, Gold Dog, but I get what you're saying. He surely wants to experience the interviews explaining things. So I think his actions tell us this. I know it's not me. That's what Lead Dog is saying. So yeah, I think you're right, Gold Dog. I think that the only person that really is going to know who the lead dog is, so to say, is going to be Forrest Fenn himself. I mean, none of us know. We don't. In my opinion, we don't know anything for certain. We have no absolute confirmation that we have any of these clues correct. And the only confirmation, in my opinion, will come from recovering that treasure chest. There's no big sign out there that says, welcome to Warm Waters Hall, or welcome to the home of Brown. Go this way. There's nothing out there. All we have is 166 words in the poem, 28,000 words in a book, a plethora of interviews and stuff all over the place, and articles and stuff like that. I mean, again, it's overwhelming, the amount of information. But I don't think any of us have any kind of confirmation that we could claim ourselves as being the lead dog. There's a lot of people that people like to call them chase celebrities, or they call them, people that are really out there in the public that talk about those. But I don't even think any of us that you would consider, people that are out there on the forefront or talking to the community, I wouldn't say on the forefront, can even claim that even ourselves anybody would be considered the lead dog. Because again, we have no confirmation that any of the information that we have is right. I mean, we may have a high level of confidence, but there's no certainty or confirmation. There's a buttload of coincidences and confirmation bias, I can tell you that. But as far as a lead dog, I just don't think, I mean, I remember my first year in this chase, and I first got a hold of that poem and read it, and I thought, oh my God, this is easy. I'm going to find this, just probably like most everyone who gets into this. And then you go out there and you find a plethora of coincidences and confirmation biases and everything else that add up that give you this false sense of security or confidence. And then you go out there and claim, oh, I know right where this thing is and I'm going to go find it. And in some ways, we give those people a hard time, but we've all been there. I think we've all had that excitement. And I think we ought to, instead of beating those people down, and not everybody does, I think a lot of people embrace some of these people that first get into the chase and are excited for them too, because like, welcome to the chase, welcome to Hotel California, I mean, you're sucked in, you can never get out of here. But as far as this lead dog, let me see if I've got anything else in here as far as emails that I want to read. Okay, this one comes from a searcher with a pseudonym named Sykeston, and maybe I'm getting that wrong, but Sykeston I know posts over at Harry's Chase Forum. Cheers to my guys at Harry's. And he jokingly says, since the lead searcher summit is coming up, he puts in quotations, this is not part of the question, just milking the gag. He gets it. I have a question. There are many who have an unwavering belief they hold the coveted title lead dog. In your opinion, how can one self-evaluate in a realistic way where he or she could truly say, yeah, I think it's me? Or alternatively, how can they do the same and say, it ain't worth the trip this summer? I think that's a great statement, Sykes. I think, how does one, in a realistic way, truly say, yeah, I think it's me? I don't know. I mean, man, I have a lot of confidence in David, and I have a lot of confidence in our general solve and where we're at in our area. But by no means can we come out there and say, yeah, we're the lead people. I mean, we just have no idea. I mean, it's a lot of confidence, but there's no certainty or confirmation that anything that we have come up with is correct. That there's just no way. Again, I think that confirmation one can get, or that certainty, is really possessing that treasure chest. And I think a realistic and logical deep thinker is going to understand that. But again, there's that excitement when you first get in this and you get going. And there's a lot of people that, will claim that, I know right where it is, and sometimes people just do that, maybe just to troll, just to fire people up, because I mean, there is nothing worse or nothing more that will fire up a forum than somebody claiming they have the treasure or they know exactly where it is. And it just fires people up and gets it going. But again, I think sometimes we got to step back and embrace that excitement, because I think we've all been there. We've had some epiphany or some, magical coincidence that lines everything up, and you're going to get it right now. You're packing your bags. You're leaving on a jet plane. So, hey, Bill Gorman, I see you in there. RF Hecky, hey, Susie, how are you? Slednet, good to see you. Let me think. I actually missed part of Gold Dog's question. Sorry. Let me go back over to Gold Dogs. And this was, again, Gold Dog had posed the question: why worry about a lead searcher? Is it the thrill of the chase? So keep searching. Two, if the lead searcher were to stand on a mountaintop and tell the world, we would all laugh at him or her. Absolutely. I mean, we've had that. If somebody was to come out and like I said, people come out all the time and say, I know exactly where it is. And that'll fire people up, and we'll laugh at them and welcome to Hotel California. We'll embrace them. We'll chastise them, everything else. I mean, it's welcome to the internet, a bunch of anonymous people just putting down more anonymous people. It's I've said it before in one of my videos, my confirmation bias will kick your confirmation bias's ass. It's a complete joke. It's all confirmation bias. None of us have any, confirmation that we're actually right. So I think we just ought to. Yeah, Bill, we all get laughed at about things, and different ideas and stuff we have, because we all think differently. We all think we actually know something. The fact of the matter is, none of us know anything. All of us are correct at the same time as that we're all wrong at the same time. We're all right, we're all wrong until this thing is found and we're all proven wrong, and one person proves us right. I mean, it is what it is. It's hard sometimes. I know it's hard to not take it personally. And I've definitely taken it personally in my past, but sometimes you just have to let it roll off and just ignore some of the people that just want to try and fire you up. Randy Henderson, that's a new name I haven't seen. At room, is Stephanie secretly back? Hooey. You talking about Stephanie Longacre? I don't know. I haven't seen her posting over on Chase Chat. Anyway. So yeah, lead dog, lead searcher. I mean, even I laugh about this because there was people talking not too long ago about, getting a hold of Forrest Fenn's computer and going through all his emails. Now, I mean, even if you had the 300 some odd thousand emails Forrest Fenn had, who would you pick? What person out of there would you pick to follow? Who do you think the lead dog is? I mean, if you don't think it's you, who do you think it is? And you're going to follow that person? Even if you follow that person, that's based on your own confirmation bias. You're probably going to follow somebody that you think is searching in the same state that you believe it's in. Well, that's just basing it on your preconceived belief that you believe it's in that state. Because again, we have no confirmation of where the exact starting point is. You may believe it's here, then you're going to follow everybody that's in that same search state. Which of those, 25% of those people do you follow? I mean, what do you do? I mean, it's crazy. Like, I think many people have said it so many times that the precise solve could be displayed on the forums and by Forrest Fenn himself, using a pseudonym, and we probably all pick it apart and say, well, there's no way that can be right because this line in the book is the subtle hint that tells me this, that confirms that. So you're wrong. Again, my confirmation bias will kick your confirmation bias's ass. And, the right solve would be completely laughed at, and Forrest Fenn would just be shaking his head like, come on, guys. Mm-hmm. I feel the need for speed, Jimmy. Gonna move this so I can actually see what you guys are talking about. Pretty good chat. I don't even know how many people are in here. Somebody tell me how many people are in here. I don't even have that popped up. We got a good chat going on. You guys are chatting it up. Yeah, 23 Monarcha. The poem is the only one that knows other than Mr. Fenn, right? And neither one of them are telling us. We got to figure it out. Oh, cool. 70 people. Awesome. It's good numbers. All right. So did we beat that lead dog thing enough, or do you guys want to talk more about that? Or should I move on? Okay. Well, I'm going to move on. If you guys want to talk about it, just hit me up and we'll go back to it. I think I hit just a couple of the emails that really focused on those two things that I wanted to talk about. RF Hecky, yeah, RF Hecky, where are you at? You got 12 inches coming your way? Where are you at? I keep looking over the chat over here. I know you guys are right here. Come on, tell me. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the second topic I wanted to talk about, which was this this Freedom of Information Act. We all know that KPRO is in the process of or working on trying to get this Freedom of Information Act of the pictures and stuff that apparently the FBI or BLM raid took in 2009 of Forrest Fenn's home, which we assume was also part of the treasure contents. But you know, over this period of time where I've kind of, you know, been dealing with the whole home and all the other stuff, you know, my mind is always, you know, running back to the chase and thinking about things. And one thing that kind of stood out to me, and I'm going to pop this up to you guys. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, let's see, scrapbook 179, or excuse me, 158. Okay. So hopefully I'm sharing my screen here. This is scrapbook 158. And this is called the early arrangement. And this is that one image I think, you know, we've seen people bring up and talk a lot about. But what's curious to me, and this is just a what if, guys. It says right here, copyright 2016 Forrest Fenn, do not use without written permission. And I just got to thinking, what if this is the one photo that the FBI took, or the BLM FBI investigation took? What if this is that one photo? What if this is all that's available, you know, in this whole FOIA request? What if this is the one picture that we would get? I mean, why is Forrest Fenn stating that you got to have written permission to get this one photo? If he's put it out there and when we can't use it, maybe now I'm in trouble because I'm posting it on here. Oh, Forrest Fenn's going to send me a nasty email. But I mean, what if this is the one thing that, and that's why he's saying written permission to use it? I mean, just a what if out there. What if that's the only thing that we get out of there? I mean, I got to thinking about that. I don't know, that just popped out to me and was thinking about that. So again, when I don't think that there's any value to the, you know, getting that information, you know, in the Freedom of Information Act. I think it's just another rabbit hole. That's fine. I mean, there's no problems going down rabbit holes. We can learn a lot of things that are just not necessarily related to the chase, just about history and geography and everything else is related to this chase and things that are not. I mean, I've learned a lot just going down some of these rabbit holes. So, I mean, if somebody wants to go down that rabbit hole, then that's theirs to go to. I don't think there's going to be anything that would really solidly come out of that. I think that time is more well vested in just focusing on the 166 words in the poem and trying to figure those things out, trying to marry those clues or your interpretations of those clues to, you know, a geographical location on a map. So I just don't think. Yeah, Matt Bear, why is it being copyrighted? Again, I don't know. That's why, you know, my mind thinks, okay, why is he, you know, copywriting that, and why is it we got to have written permission to use it, you know, outside of whatever means we're using here? Could it be because that's that one thing that came out of the FOIA? I don't know. I'm just thinking. These aren't the droids I'm looking for, right? Yeah, Huli, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's an interesting thing. You never know what's going to come out of there and get to see. But what if this was just the only one picture that we got out of it? You know, batch of snickerdoodles in the oven. Well, save me one, RFEC. You got to send me some. Dirk, FOIA is an invasion of privacy. Yeah, let me stop sharing here. I want to bring up another email response I got about this. Let's see if I can bring this one up. Okay, this one again was from Gold Dog, and his comment about the FOIA is this is over the line. Most of all, it's pointless in finding the treasure, and I agree. Is it an invasion of privacy? Well, we are talking about the architect of this poem. You know, and there are some in this chase that believe there's no rules, that this would not be an invasion of privacy in that whole scope of there being no rules in this chase. now this is a touchy subject with me, and I'm going to probably ruffle some feathers with this comment, but here recently, the same person that's investigating this whole FOIA and pushing for this whole FOIA thing also was pretty upset to have their personal information put out there on the interweb. Their personal name and place of employment and all that put out on the internet. And I agree. I think that whoever did put that personal information of that individual out there on the internet, I thought that kind of was crossing the line. I didn't like that. And even my own search partner, sending an email to that person and the content of that email, I personally thought was crossing the line. And my search partner knows that. I've voiced that, and we've moved beyond that. But he's his own man. I can't account for him, and he does his own thing, and that's just who he is. That's just a line that I didn't want to cross. So is this FOIA an invasion of privacy? I mean, I know that individual is pretty upset to have their personal information spread out there and then have emails with some pretty nasty comments in there sent to them. Was that crossing the line? Is the FOIA request crossing that line? I mean, you have a person who's saying one thing is crossing the line, yet they're doing something that they're saying is there's no rules or there's no lines out there. So it's a touchy subject. I don't want to go down that. I personally don't think it's an invasion of privacy so much, but it's a line. I don't know. You got to, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? I mean, if you think one thing is crossing the line, aren't what you're doing is crossing the line too. You're saying you're doing what you don't like. So you just have to ask that question of yourself. But to me, I think the whole FOIA, I don't think there's any there. But if somebody chooses, this is their thrill of the chase. If that's what they want to do and they want to investigate that stuff, who am I to say that they're wrong or that, they can do what they want. It's just not where I want to focus my time on. So, is Minotaur Marino in here? Cool. All right. Let's see. That's really all I really wanted to talk about FOIA, just to get you guys thinking that SB 158, that early arrangement where he shows the actual image of the treasure chest with all its contents in there prior to him moving those repeater watches and some of the large gems. And some of the coins were still in their plastic sleeves and stuff. That might have been what the FBI and BLM took the picture of, and that's why it's so copyrighted. And he's maintained some control over that images. So just something to think about, guys. Next, I want to move on to the 6 questions. And there's only really one thing I kind of wanted to bring up about this whole 6 questions, and it's one of the things that Call and I really didn't talk much about, but there's been quite a bit of talk about this whole picture of Willie, Forrest's dog, out in the snow. And there's been a lot of chatter about, the placement of the tree and a V in the tree and the way the footprints and the snow and everything else. And there's been a lot of deep, thought and analysis into that. And I just want to simplify this and just state that, could this not be a subtle hint from Forrest of telling everybody, hey, even here in the most southern part of the search area in Santa Fe itself, we've got snow on the ground. Stay warm, stay indoors. Don't be out there searching. This is just him telling us this. This wasn't some subtle, hint to a lead dog or to a V victory, or you've got to go find a tree that looks like that out there in the woods. I really don't believe that. I'd simply look at it and go, he's just reminding us that here, even in the most southern part of the search area, even outside of the search area, really, we're talking in Santa Fe. We know the treasure is supposed to be more than 66,000 links north of Santa Fe. That they've still got enough snow on the ground. They're in February. And let's just compare that with what we had last year. This time last year, almost a year to the date, I did a video titled "To Cross or Not to Cross." And this was all about You know, is there a water crossing, you know, in Forrest Fenn's poem? Is the path from where warm waters halt to where the treasure is, does that path cross a waterway? And in that video, which I think was dated the 4th of March of 2018, I specifically said the southern parts of the search area were already opened up because we really didn't have that much snowfall. I can tell you right now, guys, it's March 8th, and there's still snow in the southern parts of the search area. It's not really a good time to be out there searching. So and I kind of revised this with, you know, this whole gut feeling. And I think I put this out in my last Fennsomnia that, you know, my wife had mentioned something to me about, you know, that this year we had a heck of a lot more snow than we had last year. And I got to thinking, maybe that's what precipitated Forrest Fenn's gut feeling. Was his gut feeling that it would be found that summer not because there was one searcher that gave him a solve that got him within several steps of the treasure, but because the lack of snow, that the search area was opened up earlier and longer for more searchers to get out there. But also, you got to think about, with the lack of snowfall, the amount of runoff, you know, would be minimal compared to other years. So what does that runoff do? Well, if you understand watersheds and everything else, water where snow melts, it forms creeks and forms streams and then forms rivers, and all that stuff comes into one area. And then that just the water level would be higher with a higher amount of snow. With a lesser amount of snow, the water level would be less. Thus, rivers would be shallower, creeks would be shallower, streams might be completely non-existent. So that, you know, could have been what precipitated his gut feeling. Now, turn around to this search season. We've got a heck of a lot more snow, even in the southern parts of the area, hence the picture of Willie in snow, and this year's 6 questions. So to me, I look at that, and I hear a lot of people talking about, you know, the way the footsteps are in there, and Willie, if there's a lead dog out there, maybe his name is Bill Gorman, right? I mean, but I mean, there's all kinds of theories floating out there just because of that image. I look at it, I simply go, like I said, you know, the southern area is still covered in snow. We got to be safe out there. And that's a perfectly good segue to a video that came out here this last month and I'll talk about. And that was a video of a searcher who was planning on doing a boots on the ground search here this last month, or this first part of March. And another FenTuber, you know, kind of jumped onto that and had him on their show. And we're talking, you know, to the searcher and debating back and forth and putting polls, you know, in their YouTube video about whether the searcher should go or stay, and talking about all this. And here's something I want to talk about. And this, you know, revolves around safety. I'm going to open up my second Bud Light here. So cheers, guys. I think you'll understand where I'm going with this. But this searcher is a well-experienced searcher. I know the areas he trapsidizes in. I'm from the same area in California. You know, I know that area very well. He's a very seasoned, you know, outdoorsman. I completely understand that. But as a very seasoned outdoors person, and I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about those that are very seasoned outdoorsmen, outdoorswomen, whatever, you have to understand that not everyone is as seasoned and as experienced as you. And you also understand, as a seasoned outdoors person, that Mother Nature makes her own rules. You know, she does her own thing, you know, and you can get caught up in anything out there in the mountains. But what you don't also understand is not everybody is as seasoned and as experienced as you. And in this treasure hunt, there's a lot of people that really get concerned about other people being in your search spot or in their search spot. And if they really feel that if they feel very confident in their solve and where this treasure is located, you know, they're gonna kind of protect that, and they're gonna be watching people and keeping an eye on people they think are close to their search area. Now, if you've got somebody that's out there, stating that they're going to go out early in the search season when we know there's still snow. Even in the southern areas, and we're talking about the northern areas of Montana and Wyoming, forget about it, okay? They're going to be tempted to want to try and beat that person out there. And we've got to be really careful about that. Now, guys, I know survival of the fittest applies to humans too. If you're dumb enough to go out there and do this or cross a water when it's raging and everything else, the Darwin effect is going to get you. Okay. So I think as a search community, again, we just need to be responsible. We need to have that discussion about not going out there. We know there's still too much snow out there. There's still too much going on out there. Again, guys, you're all adults. You can make your own decisions. I'm just trying to bring it to light that we ought to be responsible and not bring those things up. If you're a searcher and you're a very seasoned searcher, you're a very seasoned outdoors person, and you want to go out there and throw some snowshoes on and go searching for a treasure chest that might be buried 3 feet deep in the snow, by all means, go ahead and do it. But don't advertise it out all over the interweb and start freaking out some flatlander from California or from New York somewhere that's never even seen the Rocky Mountains to go out there and get themselves in a bad spot. So I'm just saying, let's just have a little bit of responsibility with this. And that's my PSA, about this. And I'm sure I'll catch a lot of flack for it, but I just think we ought to talk about it. Cheers, guys. Yeah, sometimes the guy's talking about snow there again, guys. Forrest Fenn has said, a couple years back, about the webcams. Pay attention to those webcams. But again, there's not always a webcam in your search area. A lot of people think there's a webcam pointed right at the treasure. That may be a possibility. But pay attention to those webcams. The DOT ones are great, but that doesn't mean there's going to be a camera on that road that you've got to drive 10 miles down to get somewhere. Gold Dog, I see in there, to the room. The odds of someone having your exact solve is near 0%. Just wait till it is safe. If you're right, it will still be there. Sure. Just be patient. Golly, I remember my first year in this. It wasn't that I thought anybody was close. I thought I had it figured out. So, man, I had to rush out there and get it. If my wife's in the room, she'll tell you, man, he was raring to go. I mean, some of my first thoughts of where the treasure was right on the Rio Grande up there by the Red River confluence. And I couldn't wait to get out there. I had to go now. I had to go, and because it wasn't because I thought somebody else was in my same spot. I just thought somebody else would find it before me. And I guess that is being in the same spot. But yeah, I mean, I was in the military for 14 years. I consider myself a pretty smart guy when it comes to land navigation and being out in the wilderness and stuff like that, but by no means would I consider myself a very seasoned outdoors person. I like to have what I call Boy Scout fuel when I start a fire, which is gasoline. You're not going to see me out there on Survivor rubbing sticks together to start a fire. So I'm not a seasoned outdoors person in that regards, but I still follow common sense rules and stuff. So I just want us to be smart about it and not getting out there. So I've talked about, the lead dog stuff. I talked a little bit about the FOIA, talked about, the 6 questions, the image of Willie, talked a little bit about, again, being safe and not getting out there too early, guys. This whole search area, again, I was up in Pagosa Springs and happened across Brad Kinsner. I think he's in the chat room tonight. I ran into a fellow searcher out there, and he said, "Hi, Sean," to me, and I thought, well, how the heck does this guy know my name? And I was just doing a sales call with my company and going into this company and met him, and later he tells me, "Oh, I'm a Fenn searcher." I'm like, "Oh, cool," and that was great to meet another Fenn searcher like that. It was interesting. We had an interesting little conversation. I look forward to meeting Brad. Maybe we'll have lunch up there in Pagosa sometime and get to know each other a little bit better. So hopefully I'll get to meet you again, Brad. So one of the other things I know, Alan, I know you're in the room. I saw you earlier. You did send me an email mentioning your YouTube video. I did go and watch it. And I think that if you guys haven't watched Alan Kay's video, go watch his video. He really talks about the paragraph before the poem and the paragraph after the poem. And then he was doing some kind of rearranging based on his beliefs of thinking that, they should have been connected together, and then preceding the poem. So the whole, paragraph before the poem and the paragraph after the poem should have been one whole paragraph that preceded the poem, and then the poem would follow it. Now, Alan, I don't necessarily know if I agree with you. I'm not saying you're wrong. My personal belief that I think it is very purposeful that there is that separation between the paragraph prior to the poem and the paragraph after. And those may be bookended by the statement, "So I wrote a poem." And I do find it very interesting. I think I've mentioned this before, that on page 132, I believe it is. Let me pull out my book here. Yes, a Poem Purist does have a book price. And I do know this book very well, guys. I mean, I say that I focus on the poem, but I didn't start out as a poem purist. So I know this book probably just as well as most. But, right here, he does say, "So I wrote a poem," and then it stops. But as you can see, I mean, there's all this open space here. Alan Kay makes a great point. And I think most of us see this and wonder why that. But there's all this room here where it could have put, the rest of that whole line. So why is there that gap? "So I wrote a poem containing 9 clues that, if followed precisely, will lead to the end of my rainbow and the treasure." And I think it's very purposeful that he does that. And that really, again, centers around that colon that follows that line. And if you guys haven't researched, you understand what a colon means. Forrest Fenn knows what it means because he did that, in $17 a square inch. He even talks about in one of his videos of knowing purposely why he did that. And that's to list an item or a series of items. Now, whether you think that that's to list the poem itself or to list the 9 clues, you make your own decision on that. But I think, Alan, it is very purposeful that he made that separation, because the line that immediately follows the poem is, "There are also other subtle clues sprinkled in the stories." The stories, we believe, are the stories that are contained within the thrill of the chase. So I think there is that. He's saying there's other subtle clues. So there's 9 clues, which we know are in the poem, whether you think they're the 9 sentences or pieces of that whole poem. But then there's also subtle clues that are sprinkled in the story. So there's two separate things. So I think it is very purposeful. There is, him talking about Gardener's Island and Captain Kidd. Again, guys, if you know my belief about the whole gold bug, again, it relates back to that. He could be hinting at the gold bug. Again, guys, I'm not a big person on the subtle hints, because I think they're just very subjective. Again, I have to admit that my belief that the gold bug is very similar to Forrest Fenn's poem is my own personal confirmation bias, my subjective opinion that it is. I have to admit to that. And that's not in here, that's not being poem pure or whatever, But again, poem purity is my belief and faith that everything, all the information I need is right here in those 166 words. So I always go back to that. And that's the basic foundation of my solve. David and I solve. So yeah, I like your video. I think it was good, Alan. I just personally believe that there's a purpose that there is that separation between those two things. Cheers. All right, guys. So let me go over here to Facebook. I did have another searcher asked me some questions from Facebook. I can't get this over here. Okay. And this was from a searcher that goes by the pseudonym BackTL. And I'll read what he said. He said, "Looking forward to Fennsomnia tomorrow night. I would be interested in hearing you discuss how many clues can be solved from home." So BackTL, how many clues can be solved from home? I don't know. Let's go to what Forrest Fenn tells us. Forrest Fenn had said, when someone had said, how many clues can be solved from home, he said all of them in theory, but not likely in practice. So what that means, in theory, or in your belief and in your mind, you could probably solve them all, but it's probably not likely going to happen that way, because it's going to take practice. You're going to have to go out there and continue, in my opinion, to fail, come back and reassess what you did wrong, and go back out there. It's that I've talked a lot about this, about the whole, Edison versus Tesla. Edison was more of a trial and error type guy, where, Tesla was more of a person who could, in their own mind, come to almost near fruition of an idea just in his mind, and then go make it happen. They're just two different people. So in theory, you could be like a Tesla and walk within several steps of the treasure, but you still, I think, have to solve that final clue, boots on the ground. And I think he has said that, rocking chair ideas can lead one to the first few clues, but a physical presence is needed to complete the solve. It means you physically got to be there. And that's like no shit, Sherlock, obvious, because you have to be there physically to pull the treasure chest, out of the ground or off the ground or whatever. So that's pretty obvious to everybody. So I think I've had this discussion with Minotaur a little bit back and forth, that I think it is possible to probably solve 8 of 9 clues. And that's just my belief that the sentences are the 9 clues. I know not everybody agrees with that, but I think that what might be that one, and I'm not going to say it's the final clue, but I think that the one clue that has to be solved on the ground is you physically being wise and finding the blaze. I think that's the one that you almost have to find. And whether you think that the treasure is 10 feet from the blaze, or you think that the blaze is miles away, it really doesn't matter. I think that may be the one clue that we have to solve there, boots on the ground. That might be the one, in my opinion. So I think that it's quite possible that somebody could solve 8 of the 9 clues, but still got to be there physically to recover the treasure. And I think that they have to be wise and have found the blaze and understand what they do after that. Again, I'm a 9 clues, 9 senses guy. So that whole clue, in my opinion, would be, if you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down, your quest to cease. But Terry scant with marvel gaze, just take the chest and go in peace. That's one whole clue. You have to understand what all that means and what you have to do in order to do that. Brad, you said, what's your take on As I Have Gone Alone in there? Brad, I don't go too much into my interpretation of the clues, but I think the key thing is we have to understand, I think it comes down to tense nature. I think he's saying, as I have gone, because that is a tense nature, it's saying, you have to understand that as is a subordinate conjunction. And when you put that in the beginning of a sentence, it immediately makes that sentence a dependent clause. It's dependent on more information. You can't simply say, as I have gone alone in there. If I was to say that just to you, Brad, and then walk away from you, you'd be sitting there going, well, what the hell just happened? What happened when you went alone in there? Where did you go alone to? Blah, blah, blah. Your mind would be filled with all kinds of questions, would it not? So you can't just state that. So Forrest Fenn knows that, and I believe understands grammar and writing style and everything else, obviously. So he knew he couldn't say that. As I have gone alone in there, and with my treasures bold, I can keep my secret where, and hint of riches new and old. He's saying, because I have gone alone. If you substitute with as with because they are somewhat synonymous, he's saying, because I have gone alone, I can do these things. I can keep my secret location, and I can also hint of riches new and old. And whatever you think those things are, he can do those things because he has gone alone. He said that. Nobody knows where I hid that treasure. 2 can keep a secret if one of them is dead, right? He says that in the paragraph that follows the treasure. So I think that it's a very key part, but I think it's I think that whole paragraph, excuse me, whole stanza was written after he returned from hiding the treasure. Again, he stated, I could have hid the treasure, or I could have written the poem before I hid the treasure, but I didn't. So we all know he hid the treasure before finishing the poem, right? Cheers. Seeing some questions fly by, guys. I want to make sure I hit them up. So let me go back up here a little bit. Chris, good to see you. Thank you. Yeah, I miss chatting with you guys. Again, it's been priority with just with everything with family and getting this home and everything going. That's Steve. Hark the raven evermore, ever drawing nigh. I mean, yeah. Why does Forrest Fenn, and I can't remember what scrapbook it was. It was the one scrapbook with that piece of wood, that driftwood, and he writes that whole poem, and he kind of throws some stuff in there that's very similar to Poe writing. I mean, the sailing door, some other things in there. And then he says, "Thank you for the favor, Poe." Well, what favor? Is he, again, my confirmation bias run amok? I'll admit to it. I go back to the gold bug. Is he giving thanks to Poe because he did plagiarize, but maybe he used the methodology that Poe kind of used in the gold bug to write his treasure story. Again, he told Jenny he didn't he only read about treasures that were hidden by pirates, right? I dreamt the other night I'd been reincarnated as Captain Kidd. Okay, what is one famous story about Captain Kidd? Well, one of those is the gold bug. That was the treasure that Legrand found, with Jupiter, was a treasure that was supposedly, hidden by Captain Kidd. I don't know. I'm going off on a rabbit hole here. Again, it doesn't get me any closer to the treasure, but it just makes me think. Yeah, Brad, I don't know when I'll get back up to Pacosa. But yeah, I'll definitely let you know, brother. We'll go to lunch or something, hang out. Can't have a beer at lunch, sorry. But we can go to Kips. Do you like Kips, Brad? I love Kips. Or if you got a place you'd like to go, buy you lunch. Give me a second, guys. Just trying to see. Sean, on the flip side, what do you think about ending a sentence with a preposition and 6 Qs? Did he do that? I can't remember, Sean. I didn't see whether he did that or not. I think he likes to break some rules, whose rules? Again, I think the poem, in my opinion, does not break any rules of grammar. I think even the semicolon, if you research, the semicolon is properly used grammatically in that. And there may be a purpose why he used it. Well, there's obviously a purpose why you put it there. God, don't get me started on the whole punctuation debate, guys. Again, I think it's there. It's a reason. Don't mess with this poem. Don't take it out. Don't add commas. Don't do anything. It's all there for a reason. Again, Omar Khayyam, the moving hand writes and having writ moves on. All your piety and wit can lure it back to cancel half a line, or all your tears wash out a word of it. That poem is written. We can't go back and change it. We cannot do anything to it. You cannot remove any of the punctuation out of it. And I laughingly had posted over on Harry's. I said, okay, guys, here's the poem with all the punctuation removed out of it. And all it was, a line this flippin' long of every single word in that poem with all the spacing, everything taken out of it, because word spacing is a subset of punctuation. It's considered a word divider. And if you go back in history, when they were first writing text, and I may get this all completely wrong, and somebody completely fry me on this, but when they were first writing like biblical text, there was no word spacing in there. But then when people were trying to read biblical text allowed, it was very difficult for them to find where the word spacing was between them. So they started putting a little dot in between the different words. Well, over time, that word divider, the dot, was removed in favor of just a blank space. So it is still considered a part of punctuation. So I jokingly put it all together with just everything there in just one long line, because now you have no page breaks, you have nothing. It was just this, 600, letters all jumbled together. Now, if you took your time, you could still read the poem without all that. But punctuation is what gives you context and meaning of certain words. It can sometimes tell you whether a word is a noun or a verb or an adjective or something. It gives you the context of that word. So I think punctuation is important. Is it important in helping you solve it? Well, that's completely different. And that's where I think the question, the way it was written by K-Pro, left some wiggle room for Forrest. And he just wrote it the way he wrote it. And then everybody just comes out and says, see, punctuation and grammar is not important. That's okay. They may be right. I may be wrong. I still believe it's important because it's there. Again, the moving hand is read. But Shyamalan, I'm not sure about the whole preposition. Sorry, I went off on that tangent there. Let's see any other questions in here. Gold Dog, did you not hear my whole response about the picture and the 6 questions with the dog? If you haven't, you'll have to go back and watch it. Guys, we're getting pretty close to an hour here. I'd like to keep it short. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before I jump out of here? Bill Gorman, I see you put at Sean in there. I don't know if that's at me or at somebody else. I did hear about your blood cancer thing, brother. Yeah, I hope everything goes out. Everything works out, brother. I keep seeing these stickers on people's car that say "fuck cancer." I love it. The highest peak is in Lower Fade is in California. Which David? Which peak is that? Which one are we talking about? You're right. I just can't remember. It's not Shasta. Which one is it? Gosh dang it. I thought it was further north, but I think you're right. Sorry. Saw that one. Saw California pop up there. California's doing some crazy stuff too. I don't want to get into politics, guys. I know you guys were talking politics before I got into this, but holy cow. Steve, yeah. Brother, quality, not quantity. I want to have good stuff to talk about. I don't want to put out, a video once a week or all the time. I want to put out good quality stuff. And one that I've been talking with DeCall and M. Davis, 19 over at Harry's. There's one video I want to put out and really want to talk about this. I think it'll be a really good one to talk about. I want to talk about the 4 C's, and what the 4 C's are: confidence, coincidence, confirmation bias, and confirmation. The thing is we absolutely have no confirmation on anything. And I talked about this earlier. There's absolutely no road sign out there that says, welcome to Warm Waters Hall, or welcome to the home of Brown, or welcome to the Blaze. There's nothing out there that tells us that. So we absolutely have no confirmation. We have a plethora of coincidences. We have a plethora of confidence out there, and we have a multitude of confirmation bias, but we have absolutely no confirmation. And this whole thing about Forrest Fenn saying, I warned the path would not be direct for those who had no certainty in the location beforehand, but sure for the one who did, totally flies in the face. It's probably one of the biggest contradictions that we have within the chase about Forrest Fenn saying, no one will be certain they had the first clue correct until they find the treasure. I mean, it's a huge contradiction, because he's telling us we're supposed to have certainty, yet we're not going to be certain we have the first clue correct until we find the treasure. So, I mean, which one do you believe? And that's the hard thing. So I want to have a video, and I'm trying to plan this and trying to get, Mike, me, and DeCall on the same page to do a video
during the week, because I think that's what's going to work best for all three parties, to do a show really focused around that. I think it'd be a good discussion to have between us, and really talk about it with the search community, because I think there is this overwhelming belief that people believe that, man, how many number of coincidences do you need to prove confirmation? Well, I've said it doesn't matter how many coincidences you have, it will never prove confirmation. The only confirmation any of us will ever have is pulling that treasure chest out of the dirt. That's the only confirmation we have. And you can call me wrong if you want that till you're blue in the face. I don't care. I firmly believe that is the only confirmation we will ever have, because Forrest Fenn's not given any. Whether you believe that subtle hint in scrapbook 132 is telling you this or whatever else, it doesn't matter. There's no confirmation until you pull that thing out. Certainty, we'll go into the definitions of everything, in that video. I think it'll be a great video. It's probably going to cause a lot of ruffled feathers, but it is what it is. I think it'll be a good one. Yeah, Sakar, there's little room. I think we all would agree that those two quotes just are the biggest contradiction. Yeah. Even my tangents, yeah, I get off on some bad ones sometimes. Steve, did I miss anything else? Yeah, sometimes, yeah, there's got to be somebody out there that really, and it may be two or three different people, maybe a group of searchers or whatever, that really is that lead searcher or that lead group, but they don't know. Forrest Fenn isn't telling them, nobody knows that they are that person. I don't care how much confidence you have. A really rational thinker is got to sit there and rationally think to themselves, I cannot know that I have this thing figured out until I pull that thing out of the ground. Me personally, and David and I have a lot of confidence in our salt. We really think that we know where this thing is, but that might get me a cup of coffee somewhere. That's about it. That's not going to do anything else but that. And our confidence is that high that we don't talk specifics about our clues. Yes, I've been very open about our methodology, that being grammar, being poem purity, and focusing on the poem, but that's it, because we are so confident. Another thing is I don't want to muddy the waters anymore. I've talked about there's enough noise out there already. Why would I muddy the water even more by throwing out something out there that I have no confirmation in? There's absolutely none. And even if I did, and my solve was correct, people would still pick it apart, because my belief does not jive with theirs. Again, my confirmation bias will kick your confirmation bias's ass. It's that whole game. It's funny. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Minotaur Marino, you could be right. I think I've got, where warm water's halt too. Again, it's that whole debate between what and where. I've told you guys before, you want to know what warm water's halt is or where warm water's halt is, I'll tell you right now. It's funny. I'll show you guys. You guys can go back and watch my other video. I said it before. Okay. Okay, there's the begin at where warm water's halt. Warm water's halt just before take it in the canyon, right? There it is. There's your where warm water's halt. Right there in front of us. All right, guys. I think I need to wrap this thing up. All right, guys. Well, again, I'm never making any promises when I'm going to do videos. I'm trying to do at least once a month, do a Fennsomnia, maybe do a little panel discussion. Again, I'm trying to plan with Mike and and to call to do that one about, the differences between confidence, confirmation bias, coincidence, and everything else. I really want to talk about those differences and go about that. So, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Again, I don't care much about subscriber numbers. I'm just here for the people that are watching it tonight and watching on the replay. Hope you liked it. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, there's that other button too. You're not going to hurt my feelings, guys. And hope you had a good night, and we will catch you all on the flip side. Bye, guys.